Wait, hold on. All right, you're on WCUA.
Yes, hi, this is Tony Mallory from Machines of Living Death.
All right. It's great to finally hear from you. How's it going?
Good, good. How's it going?
It's not bad at all. We were actually speaking about your band a little bit earlier about what we thought of it, but actually we have a few questions prepared for you if you don't mind answering a few of them.
All right.
Sure.
All right.
Well, I mean, obviously the first question to ask any band is like, who were your influences kind of when you guys were forming and whatnot?
The main influences we have in the band are Skinny Puppy and Slayer. You know, Skinny Puppy is definitely more of our industrial side. That would include like KMFDM, Ministry, which is kind of what Matt brings to the table. I bring more of the metal side, you know, like Slayer, Obituary, you know, Disincarnate, a lot of the like Floridian and some of the European metal styles, and then we just kind of put the two together and see what we can do.
Well, I mean, it's definitely like, I mean, obviously it's two different sides of music. I guarantee plenty of bands have tried to do it and messed it up royally, but you guys definitely it's a smooth transition between the electronic type of music that you guys have along with the metal. So it's definitely a real smooth transition that you guys were able to pull off with that.
Thank you.
And also, one thing that's, after listening to quite a few of your songs, I was trying to figure out, with the voice, like, recordings, like in the song, like, Scream Bit, like the screaming in the very beginning, is that, like, do you guys personally record that, or is that just, like, bits from movies that you guys kind of take and add to your songs?
It's bits from movies. We have a lot of samples that bring in from old sci-fi movies. And yeah. Actually, Matt would know what movie that was. I actually honestly don't even know what movie that's from.
Most likely from a horror movie, I'd guess, right?
Yeah, we use a lot of that. It's just, you know, bits of audio just to kind of help tell the story.
Yeah, or there's actually a lot of that in some cases, you know. It's often used to start songs.
Well, I mean, it was definitely interesting to, like, Scream Bit, obviously, I thought it was a very good song that you guys have. Also, for all listeners, real quick, to plug you guys, Reverb Nation actually is where I got to listen to some of his band, the music here. So definitely check them out on reverbnation.com. Some great music on there to check out.
Also, I would, if you
go for it.
The way I would sort of describe you guys when I first, like, my first impression when I listened to y'all, to me, you sound a little like Typo Negative meets Marilyn Manson. That's personally what I thought. Would you sort of agree with that, or what would be your thoughts on that?
We like those bands. I myself am like a huge Typo fan. Really, the goal, though, there are two main goals with Mold, Machines of Living Death. A is to, in my opinion, do industrial metal properly.
Yes.
Okay.
And to B, and in doing it properly, try to use a lot of technology that's around currently that is horribly underutilized. For instance, like the screams after the sample in Scream Bit are actually not samples. That's guitar through like a Pod X3, or the fact that we actually have a real drummer that uses an electronic kit, and the way he switches kits on the fly. I mean, these technologies have been around for, at this point, almost a couple of decades.
Yeah.
And you don't really see them used that much.
No, it's normally the traditional drums that you normally hear, but like I do encourage a lot of bands to use the electronic stuff because it normally sounds like genuine, real drums that you hit, but yet you could kind of change the sound, so it's not. It's kind of like a guitar, for instance, how you could change the distortion, do all that to make it sound different, like the pedal, for instance, and you could kind of do the same with the electronic drums, which I definitely think is a good thing that your drummer's doing.
It can really show like a lot of style. I mean, some bands like prefer, to have like electronic kind of even producing like such, and others just prefer like a raw organic sound. But the way y'all do it, like, it really richens your music, to say the least.
I mean, and I come from a death metal background, and what's popular in death metal a lot of times is for people to take acoustic kits and sample, or actually they trigger their drums. And my thing with that is like, well, wait a minute, if you're gonna if you're going to do that with your kick, why not just use an electronic kit? And it tends to be really frowned upon in death metal, where, in the industrial metal scene, if you can call it that, most people are used to not having a drummer at all. So it's interesting to see our crowds laugh because they get it immediately. They're like, oh, right, why not use an electronic kit? It beats seeing a guy hitting a box.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they get that, like, okay, if we hear a weird drum sound, we know where it's coming from,
No, we get that 100% completely. We just have another question for you real quick.
Yeah, my name's David. I'm actually a guest on the show today, and I figured I'd ask you a question. I admit I haven't listened to much of your music, but I'm listening to the questions these guys are asking you, and one question came to my mind. They're talking about comparing you guys to a mixture of Slayer and Skinny Puppy, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and that's kind of an old school reference. I mean, Slayer's been around for a while. They're kind of one of the four gods of thrash metal and everything. Yes. But another comparison they're making is Marilyn Manson and Type O Negative. And you said that you kind of agree with that sentiment. You feel you're influenced by them, and you even like those bands, correct?
Yeah, I mean, Manson's really cool. I can't really say I'm a huge fan of his, but I definitely respect what he does. Type O Negative, I am a huge fan of. Really, it's funny because one of the jokes we used to make when we first got the band together, when people asked, we would go, like, picture if Orgy and Fear Factory had a kid.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So
kind of stuck, because I actually really like Fear Factory, too, and Orgy. Yeah. I mean, both of those bands are, like, huge influences for me personally. But it's like a joke that kind of stuck, because we were like, well, wait a minute, why not try to take Orgy, the cool parts of Orgy and the heaviness of Fear Factory and slap them together and see what you can get,
Okay, so what my question was I wanted to ask and confirm those things first. My question was for you, when do you think, because you said Type O Negative and Marilyn Manson, those are fairly modern bands, 90s to 2000s era, and you can tell that there's kind of a distinct difference between Slayer and Skinny Puppy. There's a decade or two of a difference. My question is, where's the transition area? Like, what marked that transition area for you? And what do you think is going to mark that transition area for the next era?
Oh, I see what you're saying. That's an interesting question. I mean, it really just kind of depends. A lot of that stuff is like Matt's in the 30s. I'm in my 30s. So, when we were coming up, that stuff was invoked. Slayer still is. Skinny Puppy is definitely in their fan base. They're still there, but if they were ever mainstream, I wouldn't say that they are right now. And that's just the kind of stuff that we came up with. So, and you can hear it. I mean, you can hear it in the stuff that we do. So, not really sure if I really understand that question. When you say transition, what do you mean exactly?
Well, I guess in the sense of the transition, I mean, what band transitioned you from, if we could call it that, from the Slayer era to the Marilyn Manson era? What band do you think separates those? And do you see any bands out there now that you think are going to transition into the future era that hasn't really started yet, or has started, but future bands are going to say, one of my big influences is Machines of Living Death?
Okay, I guess the way to look at that is we're still both fans of both genres. Like we recently went to the Maryland Death Fest. There's going to be another one actually this weekend. Skinny Puppy just came through a couple of days ago. We both unfortunately missed it, but we both wanted to go. So we're still both fans of those two styles. So it's not like we were metalheads at one point and then it transitioned over to industrial. If there was any sort of really transition, it may have been the places we hung out, and that has more really to do with the music scene in Baltimore than us as people. I mean, Baltimore used to have a really